The following is a presentation of the Women's Football Alliance.
It's conference championship time and the last stop on the road to Canton. Welcome to another episode of Road to Canton. I'm your host, Brian Sweeney, the voice of the Women's Football Alliance Pro Division National Championship games. We are in the most exciting part of the season, Conference Championship weekend. But first, here's a look back at the first round playoff matchups. In Division 3, the number 1 seeded Virginia Lady Firehawks were shut out at home by the Capital City Savages by a final score of 14-0. The Music City Misfits lost a tough game to the Carolina Phoenix 33-29. The Arizona Outcasts beat the Capital Pioneers 40-8, and the Iowa Phoenix lost to the OKC Lady Force 33-6. And in Division 2, the Mile High Blaze took another step towards Canton by defeating the Austin Outlaws 16-0. The Nebraska Valkyries lost to the Houston Energy 30-7. The Tri-State Warriors were shut out by the Derby City Dynamite 59-0. And the Columbus Chaos lost on the road to the Baltimore Nighthawks 45-24. And in the WFA Pro Division, the Nevada Storm's quest for 3 straight titles, one in each division, came to an end when the Minnesota Vixen defeated them 27-10. The Cali War left Texas with a win when they beat the Arlington Impact 30-25. The Boston Renegades took the next step to another national championship when they beat the DC Divas 69-32. And in the final WFA Pro Division matchup, the Pittsburgh Passion came away from Florida with a win over the Tampa Bay Inferno 27-21. Alex Westhead looks back at the Tampa Bay-Pittsburgh game.
Our featured matchup in the quarterfinal round of the WFA Pro Division playoffs featured the Pittsburgh Passion heading down to the Tampa Bay area to take on the Tampa Bay Inferno in an exciting playoff matchup. I expected it to be a back-and-forth affair before both teams had the opportunity to seal victory when the clock hit zeros, and it was exactly that, as this matchup was one for the ages between Pittsburgh and Tampa. Taking a look at the first quarter of play, it was all tied at 7 at the end of the first quarter as the two teams traded punches in the first frame as Pittsburgh and Tampa Bay both were able to find the end zone. The Inferno would then take a 14-7 lead early in the second quarter before Pittsburgh was able to find the end zone on a 2-yard run by Polnick. Point after try missed, no good. And at the half, the Pittsburgh Passion trailed Tampa Bay by a total score of 14-13. At the start of the second half, Pittsburgh had the opportunity to possess the football first, and they would take advantage of that. Their offensive air attack had to be perfect, and it was, as Alyssa George found Marcelina Chavez from 67 yards out with a successful 2-point conversion. The Pittsburgh Passion led Tampa Bay by a total score of 21-14. It would be that score at the end of the third quarter before, with 3 minutes to go, the Tampa Bay Inferno were able to find the end zone with the point after try successful, all tied 21-21 late in the fourth quarter. But at the end of the fourth quarter, we would find that score tied 21-21 overtime football in the playoffs. On the next drive, the Pittsburgh Passion were able to take it, a wonderful outside edge by the leading rusher for Pittsburgh, Marcelina Chavez, from 16 yards out. Overtime game winner as Pittsburgh was able to advance to the semifinal round of the WFA playoffs and the National Conference Championship game against the Boston Renegades coming up this week.
Recently, it was announced that the Road to Canton won a 2022 Telly Award. It is now on display right here on our set next to our national championship trophy. If you want an opportunity to see this award in person, make sure you stop by and say hi at the meet and greet in Canton, Ohio. We'll be right back. The Women's Football Alliance wants to thank their sponsors, KT Tape, Coors Light, Wilson, Aid Nation, Zenith, Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company, Secret, and the NFL Alumni Academy. Thank you for your support of the Women's Football Alliance. Hey football fans, Brian Sweeney here, the voice of the Women's Football Alliance Pro Division National Championship game. The only thing better than catching the game live on ESPN2 is attending in person. Tickets are available now at hofvillage.com. We'll see you in Canton, Ohio on July 9th and 10th. By the end of this weekend, we will know which teams have punched their tickets to Canton, Ohio. Here's a look at the conference championship matchups, starting with Division III. In the National Conference, the 5-2 Capital City Savages will host the 5-1 Carolina Phoenix. And in the American Conference, the 6-1 Arizona Outcasts travel to play the 7-0 OKC Lady Force. In the Division II bracket, the American Conference's 5-1 Mile High Blaze welcome the 5-2 Houston Energy. And in the National Conference, the 3-4 Derby City Dynamite will host the 3-4 Baltimore Nighthawks. And in the WFA Pro Division, for the second season straight, the 5-2 Minnesota Vixen are hosting the 6-1 Cali War in the American Conference Championship. Minnesota is looking to get back to Canton for the second straight season, and Cali wants a return to the national championship for the first time since 2019. In the National Conference, the 7-0 Boston Renegades are looking to get their fifth straight national championship, and standing in their way are the 5-2 Pittsburgh Passion, who want to get to their first WFA championship game. Alex Westhead is back to break down the Pro Division Conference Championship matchups.
The National Conference Final features a familiar matchup as playoff rivals in years past will face off in Boston, Massachusetts, as the Renegades will take on the Pittsburgh Passion for the right to advance to the national championship on ESPN2 in just a few weeks' time. When we take a look at this matchup, it has particular significance for the Boston Renegades. The last time that the Pittsburgh Passion and Boston Renegades faced off against each other in playoff action, we have to turn the calendar back to 2018, almost 4 years ago. It's also that 2018 season was the last time in which the Boston Renegades have lost a contest. Almost 4 years undefeated. It's a streak in which professional football, whether the women, the men's side, it's unimaginable just how successful the Boston Renegades have been over the last 4 years, and it's something that they'd like to continue here this week. 5 straight conference championships, 4 straight title game appearances. They'd like to be able to add one more number to each of those streaks, and they have to do so against the Pittsburgh Passion here this week. When we take a look at the Boston Renegades, they advanced this championship contest in the National Conference by virtue of a decisive victory over the Boston Renegades' fierce rival, the DC Divas, 69-32 in the opening week of the playoffs 2 weeks ago. When we look at the statistics for the Boston Renegades this year, it's the third time in this year in which they've had a 60-burger on the grill, meaning that they have scored 60 or more points. It's also the second time this season in which they did so at home to the DC Divas, and the third time overall, all of which came against their fierce rival, the DC Divas. 69 points in a football game is almost unimaginable, but for it to happen twice is even more ridiculous and just testifies how good this Pittsburgh defense will have to be to contend against this Boston awesome attack. They're led, as always, by their Canton-bound quarterback, Allison Cahill, with 974 yards through the air this season. Cahill ranks third in the WFA as far as passing yards is concerned, behind Aaron Kelly of the Minnesota Vixen and Jamie Gall of the St. Louis Slam, who for St. Louis had the lights go out on their season by unable to make the playoff picture here this season. But also Boston features a prolific rushing game. Ruth Mata remains one of the best running backs in the WFA. And when you have the ability of Allison Cahill, counter that with Mata, and then their international player, Taiti Kusanen as well, they have the opportunity to really move the ball well. By the time that you have the opportunity to possess it, more likely than not, you will be losing, and more likely than not, you may be losing by a lot. Boston is legitimate in every aspect of the game. But that's not to say that the Pittsburgh Passion certainly cannot contend with them. When we take a look at how Pittsburgh got here, when I previewed the matchup last week in Tampa Bay against the Inferno, I said that Pittsburgh had to be close. I said that it had to be on the shoulders of Alyssa George and the wonderful Pittsburgh defense to be able to maintain the high-flying Kim Yvette Shaw and the Tampa Bay Inferno attack. Pittsburgh defense, the fourth in the WFA Pro Division, was able to do so, holding the Tampa Bay Inferno to just 21 points. And so far, Pittsburgh was able to defeat Tampa Bay 27-21 and advance to this championship game. It's a repeat performance of the Week 5 matchup between Pittsburgh and Boston in the Boston area, which saw the Renegades win 46-8. However, taking a look at that score, one might think that that game really wasn't that close, or there's nothing to celebrate there. Remember, it was a close contest between Pittsburgh and Boston early. It was only a 20-point lead for the Boston Renegades at the half. And we take a look at how Pittsburgh's stout defense performed that day in May. It was the fewest points that Boston had scored all season, 46, and it was also the first team to be able to score points against the Boston Renegades that was not DC. Remember, because of the running time, because of the quote-unquote garbage time that Boston frequently throws up against DC, the DC Divas are able to score a number of points against Boston. However, when we take a look at the rest of the contest this year for the Boston Renegades, a shutout against Tampa Bay, a shutout against Detroit, and then the only other points that Boston allowed this season, not to teams named the DC Divas, were 8 points by the Pittsburgh Passion and 21 points by the St. Louis Slam. If there's any cause for optimism, it will be that Pittsburgh had played relatively well compared to just how strong Boston is. Pittsburgh has the opportunity maybe to have an upset go their way here. But, of course, there's a lot of things that have to go their way. Alyssa George has to be perfect. Marcelina Chavez has to have a strong game on the ground. And realistically, it's going to be a tough ask for the Pittsburgh defense to be able to take down Ruth Monick, to be able to take down Allison Cahill, and to be able to silence this Boston offense, which seems unstoppable in every aspect of the word. Taking a look at the Massey ratings, when we look at the other side of the bracket, the American Conference, Minnesota and Cali are separated by just 0.10 in the Massey ratings. The gap, however, between Boston and Pittsburgh on the National Conference side is significantly larger. It's about 1.5 difference between Boston and Pittsburgh. That's reflected in what the Massey ratings say will happen in this game as well. The most likely score, according to the Massey ratings, is 48-20. That's a large gap, but it would still be improvement for the Pittsburgh Passion over that Week 5 contest. The Renegades are favored by 28. The writing certainly is on the wall. Boston is the prohibitive favorite. Pittsburgh will need to be perfect in every aspect of the game to have a chance to come away with victory and to play for the right for a national championship on ESPN2 in 2 weeks' time. Ultimately, if Boston is able to continue to do the success that they have, as I mentioned before, 4 straight championships, 5 straight conference titles, if Boston is able to use their pedigree well and be able to force Pittsburgh in an opportunity where they have to play from behind, it will be the undoing of the Pittsburgh Passion, and the Boston Renegades will be headed to Canton, Ohio. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, will need to have Allison Cahill pressured frequently. The defensive line, which has been so strong for Pittsburgh this year, will have to do so again against Boston, flushing Cahill out of the pocket, forcing her to move outside her comfort zone to be able to force some errant throws early in the contest. If Pittsburgh can get an interception here or maybe a turnover, defensive stop from this Boston offense, perhaps there may be an opportunity for victory. Alyssa George, Marcelina Chavez will have to be perfect, and they will need at least 100 yards from Chavez and at least 200 to 300 yards in the air. They have the opportunity to play for the national championship in Canton, Ohio. In the American Conference of the Women's Football Alliance, we have a repeat matchup from last year's American Conference final, as the Cali War from Los Angeles head to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vixen in the American Conference final coming up on the 25th of June. Minnesota Vixen fans remember that a year ago, it was a back-and-forth contest with the Cali War. Cali led throughout much of the second and third quarters of that game in Edina, Minnesota, before a pair of interceptions by Minnesota's defense was able to seal the victory for Minnesota and send the Vixen to Canton, Ohio. The road to Canton for Minnesota this year has been a little bit different, as they found a pair of losses in their regular season schedule, one at Nevada, one at St. Louis. However, those 2 losses for Minnesota came by just a total of 4 points. They advanced this American Conference final by virtue of a 27-10 victory over the Nevada Storm in the opening round of the WFA playoffs. It was tied 7-7 at the half, and Minnesota and Nevada were going back and forth throughout much of that first half, before a pair of interceptions by Ace Tyson was able to seal victory for Minnesota and guarantee them the spot in the American Conference final. On the other side, the Cali War will return to Minnesota for the American Conference Final for the second consecutive year. Their lone regular season loss came to the Arlington Impact in an emotion-filled game for Arlington. However, in the playoff return to Texas, the Cali War and the Arlington Impact struggled back and forth in a fantastic bout before finally the Cali War was able to come away with victory and earn their spot in this American Conference Final. Simply put, this game comes down to two things. First, it comes down to the passing attack of two teams, and it comes down to the defense. For the Minnesota Vixen, Aaron Kelly is the team's first 1,000-yard passer since Kirsten Hansen did it in 2017. And for the Cali War, Chantel Nino-Wiggins remains one of the best quarterbacks in the WFA. The Cali War have an offensive-heavy approach that is focused primarily on their passing game. This contrasts severely to other teams in the WFA, which tend to focus on a more run-based offense or have that balance between run and pass. If they are able to pass the ball well, both of these teams will be able to find themselves successful on offense. Where the game will ultimately be decided is, of course, on defense. When Minnesota hosted Cali in the American Conference Championship last year, 2 interceptions by Minnesota defenders made the difference. Ace Tyson is the player to watch on the Minnesota defense, where all but one of their interceptions this season have gone the distance for pick sixes. If Nino-Wiggins wants to be able to dominate the pace of play, she will need to throw away from Tyson as much as possible to be able to make sure that the other receivers feast on the rest of Minnesota's secondary. Another way that Cali War can win this contest is by having somewhat of a running game. The mantra of the Cali War in their existence has been that they pass the football. If, however, they are able to get a significant ground game going against Minnesota's stout defensive seven, which has only allowed just 100-yard rusher this season, Tara Thomas, in Week 5, they will be able to come away with a victory. Because if Minnesota has to defend both a run and pass attack coming up on Saturday, it may be tough sledding for the Vixen on what should be a warm day in June in the beautiful city of Minneapolis.
Tickets are on sale now for the 2022 National Championship Weekend in Canton, Ohio, July 9th and 10th. See the Division III, Division II All-American game and Pro Division National Championship games. More information and tickets at hofvillage.com. We'll be right back. The Women's Football Alliance wants to thank their sponsors, KT Tape, Coors Light, Wilson, Aid Nation, Zenith, Hall of Fame Resort and Entertainment Company, Secret, and the NFL Alumni Academy. Thank you for your support of the Women's Football Alliance.
A Hall of Fame type game as Cahill keeps the ball herself. Eludes a couple tackles. She's on her way to the end zone. Nobody else there. Ball is handed off to Cooper. Cooper gets enough for the first down. Cooper finding her way. She's down to the 10, the 5, and she's in. Gets a hole. Finds enough for the first down. Breaks a couple tackles. She's only got one person to beat. She's going to be in for a Minnesota Vixen touchdown.
Welcome back. Lois Cook is back again this week, or is she missing? Maybe she's playing with food or doing something dangerous down the side of a building. It's really hard to tell, but here's her segment, Low on the Go.
What's up? Hey everybody, the weeks are getting more and more intense. We are so close to finding out who is going to be in Canton, but not just the championship, this grand stage of football. There's also the opportunity for players to get selected from across the country. The best of the best, all-stars, most valuable players come together for an All-American game. So naturally, Low on the Go had to make a few selections as well. So this is what I like to call the cookie battle. Get it? Cook, cookie, cook, cookie, cookie. Tough crowd. know that they have the skill. But also, speed is important. So I say we give offense another shot. How about a race?
Defense wins games.
We are now just 2 weeks away from the national championship weekend. I can't wait to meet the players, coaches, and fans, beginning with the meet and greet on Friday night. For Alex Westhead, Brandy J, and Lois Cook, I'm Brian Sweeney, and we'll see you in Canton, Ohio.
Thank you for watching the preceding presentation from the Women's Football Alliance.